Hi! I am very excited for today because this is a very special video which I've been planning to make for a really long time. Today's video is going to be going over my portfolio, my supplemental responses to all of my college applications, where I applied to, and where I got in. I watched a lot of these videos when I was getting ready to apply to colleges, and I really just want to give back and make a video with everything I've learned so that I can really just help people. Although this video is mainly for people who want to pursue an arts degree, honestly, it will help you regardless, because I have a lot of tips in here that don't just apply to people who want to get an art degree and will help with the college process in general. So because I'm trying to make this the most helpful video that I can, I'm going to divide it up into a few parts. The first part is going to be my portfolio and everything that I submitted to everywhere. That's also going to have a lot of my supplemental responses. Second part is going to be discussing some other stuff that I submitted to the college, so my resume, my grades, because that also factors in a very large amount. And then near the end, we will talk about all of my acceptances and my rejections. After that, I will just have a small section where I give my top advice for people who are applying to college next year or whenever. Now, before I get rolling, there's a few disclaimers that I would like to say. First off, for the portfolio section, not all of the schools that I applied to accepted a portfolio. And this is because I applied to about 20 schools and a lot of them are not highly focused on art. I applied to so many schools because of a method called shotgunning, which is essentially a concept that means the more schools you apply to, the higher chance of getting a good financial aid offer or good acceptance is. Not all of these schools are super well known, not all of them have good art programs, but I'm going to include those acceptances and rejections in my video anyways to make it a more well-rounded resource. Keep in mind that the reason why I was accepted or rejected from any of these universities may not have entirely just been my portfolio. And lastly, I would like to say that the college process is very random. You don't know who it is looking at your application, you don't know who it is looking at the scholarship form you filled out. The difference between you getting accepted or rejected could just be because this admissions officer looked at your application instead of that one. So if you were rejected by any of these schools or rejected by scholarship offers or anything in the future, please know that it is an extremely selective process to the point where it cannot possibly be fair. So go into this video knowing that there is no one single thing that I did that got me into a certain university. Let's get on with the video. So here we are in the portfolio section. How this is going to work is I will show a picture on the screen of whatever artwork was in my portfolio in the order that they were presented, and I will include voiceovers talking about each piece. Something that's important to note is a lot of different universities, like I mentioned earlier, did not accept portfolios, and then the ones that did had some very different portfolio setups. For example, Davidson College only let me submit 11 to 15 images. Some of the other colleges I applied to using SlideRoom instead of like a built-in program allowed me to submit up to 20. And then Duke University specifically does not have a visual arts supplement at all, but has many other art supplements, like extremely specific dance supplements and almost every musical instrument you can imagine, which was very confusing to me considering they have a very highly ranked arts program but don't let you submit a visual arts portfolio, but they do let you submit a photography portfolio. So I will include the 4 or 5 pieces that I submitted for that. So all of the pieces that you are about to see were submitted in some form or combination to all of the schools that accepted them. Let's get on with it. Okay, so I just found out that once the application cycle is over, Slideroom no longer allows you to view everything that you submitted. So almost all of my supplements are gone because I'm stupid and I didn't save them, but I still will use a voiceover to describe like the pieces, and if I have anything remaining of my supplement somewhere in all my documents, I will read it out loud. Okay, so this is Blooming, a self-portrait. I do a self-portrait every year in February to like track my process and my growth in not only like my art, but also like my personal style and how I look, how I appear, stuff like that. So that's what I wrote about for this one, and specifically Blooming, like the title really just meant like becoming an adult woman and I guess blooming into who I really am. This piece is called excoriation, which is the act of like picking at or pulling at your skin. I did kind of end up giving it like a deeper meaning in that sense, but it really did just start out as like a study of a picture that I had taken of myself. So really this piece just serves to show that I have anatomical skills and can like draw anatomy and body parts. This next piece is called Birthday from Hell. It's a mixed media sculpture. In my actual thing, I wrote like everything that it was made of. But basically, for the description for this one, I made it a little bit more like story based. Like, I kind of wrote about, like, yeah, imagine it's your birthday. It's just another birthday. You're just 1 year closer to adulthood, and you don't really gain anything from adulthood other than, you know, men being able to hit on you. You can't run for president yet. Basically, just a very like theatrical story based caption to go along with this shocking piece. This piece is called Blue Ridge, and it does show a lot of variety in the subjects that I choose for my work. So I'm influenced by a lot of different things. Particularly, a lot of my pieces do deal with social justice, but here is kind of more influenced by where I live, North Carolina. And this piece actually ended up winning the Congressional Art Competition, so I got to go to DC for free, and this piece is in the US Capitol right now. So that is definitely what I wrote about for these colleges. This piece is called Polly because it is a study of an Amazonica Polly, or no, Alocasia amazonica, but like one of the nicknames for the plant is just called Polly. So that is why I drew this, and it's also just kind of like a little study to show that, like, again, I can paint other things than people. Here's a photogram that I created pretty early on in my IB art days. If you don't know what a photogram is, it's basically like laying a bunch of different items on like film paper and then exposing it so like you get this little array of objects. It was really fun, and that's like the only one that I've ever done, but I wanted to add it in here because, again, I think that it is so important to show a variety of skills, and it's especially like extra brownie points if you're showing a variety of skills while still remaining like a lot of the same themes in your work. So this was like a no-brainer for me. Another one of my little deer guys. I'm kind of adding naturey stuff here and there to sort of tie it in. I did work in two different styles. Nowadays, my work definitely focuses more on like the social issues with like the bright colors, shocking imagery. But back at this time, I was making a lot of like work with like nature and deer and stuff like that. So I was really trying to find a way to tie in both to my portfolio, and I did struggle with that a little bit. This one's called The World Beyond Ours, and it kind of represents the state of mind that you get into whenever you're constantly on social media, especially when you're in like a depressive episode. So it is kind of just showing how the internet is like a whole different world, and things are different on there, especially when you're in an altered state of mind from mental illness. I used to really love this piece, and now it's not my favorite anymore because I recognize that the composition is kind of not amazing, but yeah, it's in here. Throwing a little bit of photography in here. So I took this when I was at Shackleford Banks in North Carolina. There's like wild horses there. So I think that this piece showed that I like traveling. I enjoy looking at the world around me because it's also nice to have things in your portfolio that show who you are, but again, show a variety of skill and also serve to tie in a lot of the more naturey pieces, which is always a plus because I was struggling with them. Here's another one for you. So this is Imposter Syndrome. It's a painting of my boyfriend, but it shows that I can work with like weird lighting. I'm really proud of the like cool shadow in this and how it not only does look like an actual shadow, but also maybe like something is like stalking him, hence the feeling of like imposter syndrome. There's a lot of really good anatomy that shows through in this one, and I think that this is one of my stronger oil paint pieces. Some more photography and naturey stuff. This is like one of the cutest photos to me. It's definitely my favorite photo that I've ever taken. There was nothing really deep to talk about with this, but really just goes to show like, yeah, I have other skills. Again, I think that that is one of the most important pieces of developing your portfolio for sure. Show them that you can do lots of things, because in art school, you will be doing lots of things. Okay, so this is probably one of my only colored pencil pieces in here, but I love the variety that it shows. I have a really good, strong background in here, and I think that this is one of the pieces that has more of a story behind it. Here's where we're starting to get into a lot of the like social issues pieces. I didn't really delve into that topic until I made my IB art exhibition, which for the majority of that was after I had already like applied to colleges and stuff like that, but this is really the start of like all of the pieces I would continue to make, so it's really important to me. So this was a piece that showed my realism skills, as well as just that I work like in mixed media a lot. The meaning behind it was basically like there was a point in my life where I found out that a lot of the things I considered to be like me or my identity were also shared by a lot of other people. So I started feeling like I wasn't really special, and in the grand scheme of things, why did I feel the need to be special? Was it because I wanted to be better than other people? I don't know. But I made it into a piece, and I wrote about it. Oh, hey, yeah, admissions counselors, I can do digital too. I love this piece. It is so cute. I think that it's the beginning of me starting to understand more complex compositions, and my growth is really present from my portfolio to now, and I think that that's super important in the grand scheme. So wherever I end up, you know, they're going to see from my portfolio to my senior year there how much I've grown, and I think that's beautiful. So this is another one of those pieces that has a big backstory, and I think helps to tell admissions counselors a little bit about me through my portfolio. So for those of you who don't know, I was in the Capitol at the time that Roe v. Wade was overturned last summer. There was a lot that went on. It was pretty crazy, not gonna lie. Very stressful time to be in the Capitol, very sad time to be in the Capitol. So yeah, I got out, I lived, I did not die. There was no threat of dying. It was just like a crazy, crazy time. So I made a piece kind of about how I felt. This one's just a cute little piece. I love the ambiance of it and the environmentals like in the background. I really had fun like experimenting with the lighting and stuff like that, and that's the strength that this piece brings, mainly just to show that I can work with complex lighting. I can work with big intricate backgrounds, even though I really can't, but we did it. This is my favorite piece in my entire portfolio. It was one of the IB art exhibition pieces that I made in May, so I had enough time to include it with my college stuff in October. Yeah, she is a little out there, but this was kind of my test piece. Like, if a college doesn't want me, if a college doesn't want me to make this kind of work, then I don't want to go there. So there were like maybe like 2 people who advised against putting this kind of work in my portfolio, but I would just say if there is something in your artwork that may be like sort of like risque, but like it's very central to your craft and who you are, go ahead and put it in your portfolio. You want them to see who you truly are, what the kind of work is that you will make there, not who you want to pretend to be to get into their school. I absolutely, absolutely love this piece. It also goes to show a lot about my personal history, because this piece is about Canada and my family on that side being immigrants, and you know, the struggle that they've been through, and what I see when I go to their house, and how my life is like connected to what they did and things like that. So it is a pretty deeply personal piece, but it's also just very beautiful, very colorful, and this is sort of what, you know, my style embodies these days. I love this one. So I love the colors of this piece and I like the concept, but I really think that the execution could have been a lot better. For colleges that didn't accept as many paintings or pieces, I normally would leave this one out, but I did end up submitting it to a few colleges. I think that I wanted the end product to be a lot more realistic than what came out, but it's still not a bad piece. Just if I could have done it over again, I would have put something else. Okay, the last piece in my general portfolio, we had to end strong. So she tells the story of like American patriotism and how a lot of people think that we can do no wrong no matter what we do. So why not embrace it? And that idea is how I created this sculpture. Yes, it is a little controversial. This one was in my IB art exhibition, so I'm really glad that I was able to include her in my portfolio because I think it gave, you know, some more insight into the sort of sculpture I do and things like that. But this really was ending strong, and I think that ending on either a strong or interesting note is good because then admissions officers are going to remember you, versus if I had just ended with any other piece, you know, it wasn't impactful, it wasn't memorable. Next up are all the pieces that I submitted for Duke's photo supplement. So first we still have Shackelford and Angels, which were in my earlier portfolio, but then we also have some other pieces. This is Alone in a Crowded Room. I think that it's like such a lovely photo. I don't know, it's amazing, and like there's so much emotion in it, I feel, even though it's just like animals, and the title really makes the story apparent, I feel. And then the last piece was Dinner Time, which is a digital photo. This was kind of a sneaky way of showing some of my visual art. So basically they like specify that you can't just submit photographs of your visual artwork, and that's not like photography, obviously. But what I can do is I took this little photo shoot, which was like housewifey, kind of like going against the grain, like, yeah, I'm not gonna be your housewife anymore vibes. But it includes a sculpture that I created, Birthday from Hell, which you guys saw earlier. So, kind of shows them my visual art. Didn't really, but anyways, yeah. Now, on to the rest of my application. So, one of the things that I think really helped me out big time was my resume. So basically, when you're going to college, a lot of colleges will ask for a resume of all the activities you've done. And if they didn't ask for a resume of all the activities done, you instead put them in your Common App. The Common App is one of the most commonly used applications, I guess that's why they called it that, for applying to colleges. I think somewhere like 900 to 1,000 colleges in the US accept it. And you have what's called your Common App essay, which is what everybody really talks about with the big college essay. You have your stuff like grades, and then other stuff such as any awards that you received, extracurriculars you were in, etc. Now, the Common App is, if you're applying through it, what you will submit to every single college that you apply to through it, but then those individual colleges will also have their own application. And you applying to their college is a combination of the Common App and what you filled out on their individual application. So on their individual application, it could be like Duke University says, oh, why do you want to go here? You type up a little 300-word response like, I want to go here because blah, blah, blah. They might ask you additional stuff. That could be where they ask you to submit the resume. I know that UNC Chapel Hill did that. A lot of smaller universities will ask you to submit a resume. Now, on my resume, I talked about all of the extracurriculars that I did. So to name a few, that's student government, color guard. I had a lot of volunteer hours because I painted murals and I ran my youth art service project, Youth and Art Initiative. I was involved in a lot of clubs in my school. I served on the North Carolina Museum of Art's Teen Arts Council, which sounds very fancy, but basically just means I helped volunteer with their events and things like that, and some other things. Basically, you take everything that you did throughout high school and you smush it into one little list and submit it everywhere. Now, if your college does not accept submitting a resume, you'll put it into your Common App. In your Common App, you are limited to 10 extracurricular activities, and I think about 5 honors, which honors constitutes like any awards that you were given, things like that. Yeah, that's pretty much like the setup of what you should expect when you go into the Common App. I think that my application outside of my portfolio was very, very strong. So as I said earlier, portfolio was not everything, but it really helped with getting accepted into the arts programs and getting scholarships as opposed to just being accepted to the universities. I ended up ending high school, I haven't graduated yet, with a 4.0 unweighted GPA and a 4.625 weighted GPA. But any other university that you're going for, unless they have like a strict GPA cutoff, which most colleges' GPA cutoff is about like 2.5, if you make the rest of your application strong, it really will not matter as much as you think it does. Colleges these days are test optional, which means that you are not required to submit your SAT or ACT scores. So admissions have become a lot more holistic. Obviously, like, top universities still do look at your grades, and even regular universities just want to make sure that you're academically prepared for their programs. But things like extracurriculars and art portfolios for whatever major you're going into, those things matter a lot more than they used to. Now, going into the test optional spiel, I did opt in to testing. The first time that I took the SAT, I did not get what I felt was a good score. So I decided to take the ACT, and my first ACT score was a 31. That is not bad at all. It is really good. There are a lot of schools that totally would have accepted me with that score, but I had my sights set on Duke. Duke was my top school at that time, and I retook it, and, I got a super score of 33, and a super score is basically from all of the ACT sessions that you've took. The super score is combining your highest in each of the 4 categories, which is like math, reading, grammar, and science. I got, like, on that test, something like a 35, 35, 36 in the other categories, and I literally got a 25 in math, which is definitely not bad, but did tank my score a lot. But I still ended up getting, you know, a pretty good score. I don't know that it helped me insanely, because especially at top universities, either everyone has that score or they became test optional. I don't know how much that score helped, but here we are. Another big one is letters of recommendations. So this is the part where you really want to have built good relationships with teachers at your school or people in your community, because they are going to need to write letters for you saying why this college should accept you. I personally had around like 4 or 5 different letters of recommendations, and I would swap them out for different schools. So one of my teachers who went to Duke got them to write me a letter of recommendation, and I submitted that one to Duke. Not that it probably makes any real difference, but I just submitted teachers that I know would be writing about different strengths of mine to different universities. This is all the logistical stuff, and I know that as an art student, you definitely didn't come here to hear all of this, but I am just telling you that this is the truth of college admissions. It is a crazy process. There's so much to do, and my biggest tip is to just start very early. I think that I covered everything in that section, but if I didn't, I will add in some stuff post-production. Now for the fun part. So my acceptances and my rejections. I will read them out to you, and I'm going to start with universities that may not be as prestigious, which doesn't really matter. I would totally recommend that you check out like smaller universities in your region because they tend to give more money. But at the end, I will drop the big names, which you may be waiting for. So I applied to 22 colleges. I ended up rescinding my application for 2 because I realized I definitely didn't want to go to them. So the list that I am reading out to you is 20 colleges, 19 acceptances, and 1 rejection. I didn't apply to a ton of highly ranked institutions. I applied to maybe about 5 super selective colleges. I was more so aiming for selective scholarship programs at non-selective schools, which is funny because the school I ended up choosing was an extremely selective scholarship program at a pretty selective school. Y'all will see. Y'all will see. Starting the list, and I will also give the scholarship amounts that I was awarded, and then we will discuss after because scholarships are not as hard to get and not as confusing as they may seem. North Carolina Central University, full ride with the Cheatham White Scholars Program. Barton College offered me $64,000 over 4 years. Elizabeth City State University, I was accepted, but I was not offered any money. Queen's University, I was offered full tuition. UNC Pembroke, I was offered $4,000 and accepted. UNC Charlotte, I was accepted, and I was invited to attend a scholarship interview. We were there for like 2 days, and it was a super exhausting process, but it was super fun. So I was basically a finalist, but not a recipient for that scholarship. So even though I was accepted to UNC Charlotte, I did not end up getting that scholarship. Meredith College, which has a really great art program, full tuition I was awarded. Western Carolina University, I was awarded $3,000 yearly. UNC Asheville, I was awarded $20,000 over the course of all 4 years. Lenore-Rhine University, I was awarded $60,000. Salem College, I was awarded full tuition. They are a pretty good art school. They're also very small. William Peace University, I was awarded $68,000 over 4 years. Roanoke College, $80,000 over 4 years. Hollins University, $108,000 over 4 years. Brevard College, $52,000 over 4 years. And then High Point University, I cannot remember what they gave me, but it was not a lot. I will say those numbers probably sounded like a lot. First, you need to take into account college probably costs a lot more than you think it is. Even the cheapest state schools normally sit somewhere around the boundary of $22,000 to $25,000 a year, at least in North Carolina, which is where I applied to most of my colleges. So without scholarships, fully without scholarships, you will be paying about $100,000 for a 4-year experience at a public university. Now, when you get into private universities, that gets a little crazier. A lot of the colleges that offered me a lot of money on my list are private universities, and these private universities still cost a ton of money. A lot of smaller private universities will do that to kind of pull you in, will offer you what looks like a lot of scholarship money, but you have to place it into the context of their costs. Now, there still are a lot of private universities on this list that did offer me a lot of money. So Meredith College was full tuition, which when I say full tuition, that does not include room and board. Queen's University also offered me full tuition, and Salem College offered me full tuition. Now, 2 of those colleges are women's only, and then one of them is a co-ed school, and they are all in North Carolina. Queens was really nice. I was definitely thinking about going there, but their art program wasn't really exactly what I had imagined. Meredith's art program is actually incredible. I would recommend it to any woman who is looking for an art school that is a little bit smaller and maybe will offer them more money. Salem College is also like a really nice women's school, but it's a lot smaller. It's like definitely under 1,000 enrollment. And now we're moving on to the big guys. UNC Chapel Hill. So I was definitely strung between UNC Chapel Hill and one of the other schools on this list for so long, but I was set on UNC Chapel Hill for a while because they accepted me way earlier than the other two schools, which were a regular decision. And I was a Blue Sky Scholar, which meant that I got $10,000 yearly in a scholarship. However, $7,500 of that was just like a scholarship award that they would give me, and then the other $2,500 of that was in work study. I'm not really wanting to do work study specifically throughout college. I kind of want to work on my personal business, which I feel for the time that I put into it would make me more money, which then I can choose to put towards my college or groceries or savings or my future, whatever. So I didn't love the work study option, but $10,000 was still very good. So next up was a very big one, and I was so excited. So Davidson College, it is a pretty well-known private university. And I'm gonna be honest, before I saw it on the NC free application week list, I did not even know what Davidson College was. Did some research. It's literally an incredible school, very good. So I actually got full tuition from them, which was very shocking. James B. Duke Scholars Program. The school also has a full ride program, Belk Scholars, but by the time I had applied to the school, the deadline to apply to that scholarship had already passed because I didn't know that I was even considering them at that time. But yeah, Davidson, like, kind of my baby. Yeah. Now, last very big one, Duke University. What the heck? I definitely did not expect this at all. And at the time that Duke's decision came out, I was already pretty much set on a school, and their regular decision came out like April 1st, which was also the day of my prom, so I completely forgot about Duke's decisions coming out for like an hour. And then I was like, oh shoot, I should probably check that. I totally did not expect to get in. I was just like, okay, whatever. I already am into this other college, which I will be going to probably, and then they accepted me. And I was very shocked, and it kind of threw me for a loop for a little while, but they were a lot more expensive than the other college that I was thinking of, because Duke's financial aid that they gave me left me paying $8,000 more than my expected family contribution from the FAFSA, which kind of sucks. I plan to appeal it, and then I will tell you the story time later of what worked out. Now for the rejection. This one is really funny actually. So, if you're in North Carolina, you're probably realizing that I left out a very big school here. And you're thinking like, Courtney, did you not apply to the Wolfpack? Did you not apply to NC State? And the answer is yes, I did. And I was rejected. So this was pretty crazy to me, and in my opinion, kind of shows how random the college process is. So NC State, I thought, was a safety at the beginning of my journey, and it was definitely my top choice for a while. Then I figured out that there's literally like probably 50 colleges or more in North Carolina, and there's not just like the 3 that I had heard of my entire life, NC State, Duke, and UNC Chapel Hill. And at the beginning of my college search, I knew nothing about, like admission rates and how this all works. So I applied to NC State Early Action. I applied to their program, which was called Art and Design. I looked into it later, find out that it's basically only like a new media and design program, and there's like no traditional art or anything involved, which I felt like was not clear on their website for a while. Come to find out, next year they're totally like revamping the program. It's not even going to be called art and design anymore. Okay, I think that it's going to be called, well, there's a lot of different ones they offer. So like architecture, media arts, design and technology, design studies, graphic and experience design, industrial design, all of that. So it's a great school for design, but I didn't know a lot about their program when I applied, and it's not like an art program. It's almost entirely a design program. So if you're somebody who really likes traditional art, or you don't want to make design specifically your future, I would not recommend applying to or going to NC State, but it still is a really good school. So they rejected me for my 2 top majors, which was pretty crazy because the arts major was very difficult to get into for some reason. It was easier for me to get into Duke than to get into NC State's art and design major. I had an interview with the people running it, and it was a very positive interview. It went amazing. And at some point, when I was talking a lot, one of them even said like, wow, you should be teaching us. And that, like, I was like, wow. And then it shocked me because my rejection from that major came in about a month later. And I was like, you know what? Whatever. I didn't really want to go there because I got rejected from NC State's scholarship program, and I was already accepted to a really good scholarship program at another school, so I wasn't going to worry about it too much. But just to see, I put down that I would be fine with like being reconsidered again for my second choice major, which I can't even remember what my second major choice was. It was maybe like media arts or something. And then I got an email a couple weeks later or something that I was also rejected from that one. So I think the reason was because my portfolio was more traditional art based, but I still did have a good amount of digital and design things in there because I wanted to make my portfolio balanced. So at that point, I just rescinded my application, and I consider it a rejection just because I was rejected from 2 majors, and at that point it was either just go in undecided or something, and I wasn't gonna do that. So if you don't consider that a rejection, then I got accepted to all of my schools, but I completely consider that a rejection. I have been asked so many times how I got into Duke and not North Carolina's biggest state school with over 30,000 students, and to that I say I don't know, and I don't really care because I have other great options. And this is not to diss NC State. They were literally my favorite school for like all of middle school. Like, it is totally fine if you are planning to go there. It is a really good school. It's just not for my major and not for me. Where am I ending up? If you've been picking up on some of the hints throughout this video, you know I went somewhere that offered me a lot of scholarship money, and you know that I also went to a more selective school. Now, back to that story time about Duke. So I had already been accepted to Davidson College at this point, a couple days before Duke's acceptance, and even before Davidson's scholarship offer. I was going crazy. I literally did not know where I was gonna go. I was stuck between North Carolina Central, which was a full ride, and then Meredith College, which was full tuition, and I really was having to like weigh my options. Meredith College had a much stronger art program than North Carolina Central, but North Carolina Central was a full ride, so that's a lot of money making up that difference. And then out of the blue, Davidson popped up and was like,
hey girl, you want money?
And I was like, yes. So then I got dead set on Davidson College. I was like, okay, this is where I'm going. I called to reject scholarship offers at a few of those other schools, and then Duke University accepted me. And I was like, okay, this financial aid offer is not giving. It's literally $8,000 higher than what I can afford to pay. That's the situation that a lot of people face going to college, and it's definitely not talked about enough. And that's why many of these merit scholarship programs are so competitive, because people know that the financial aid offering system can sometimes be really good to you and also not so good to you. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna appeal this. So I signed up for a Duke admitted student day, and it is the day after I get back from Denmark. So I got back from Denmark at almost 11 because our plane took a really long time to take off, 11 at night. So by the time we got home, it was gonna be midnight. Probably by the time I got to sleep, it was gonna be about 1 a.m. And I really started thinking, I was like, okay, well, I have to wake up really early to drive to Duke. Duke is an hour away from me. I would be waking up at like 5 a.m. to like get there and like all of this. Is it worth it? And I tell myself, you know what? No, I'm going to sleep. Canceled the Duke admitted student day and committed to Davidson College. And then I went to sleep. I kind of wish that I had appealed Duke's offer, but Davidson is totally the place for me, at least for undergrad. I don't know if I'm going to pursue a master's in art. I would like to look into Fulbright Scholars Program. The offer that Davidson College gave me, James B. Duke, it was like a no-brainer. And I'm really proud of where I am, what I managed to do. So, now that you've watched this entire video, you're probably saying, how do I do that? Now, here are my biggest pieces of advice. Number one, start early. So basically, early action is when you apply to the college earlier than everybody else, and you probably have a higher chance of getting in. This is non-binding, so if you get into the college, you don't have to go. Regular decision, you don't have to submit your application until January, but then you also won't find out if you got in until March or April, and by that time, a lot of the scholarship money will be depleted. So, in my opinion, unless a school does not have early action and it's only early decision or regular decision, always apply early action. I started in July of last year. Hold up, I'll be back in a minute, I'm hungry. Second tip, if you're somebody who needs a good financial aid offer, apply to a lot of schools. Now, there were some colleges on my list that I applied to that I knew that I would not go to. I would say that there were maybe like 4 or 5, and if I could redo the process, I definitely would not apply to those schools so that I couldn't possibly take an acceptance from somebody who really did want to go there, which isn't really how the system works because there are wait lists. But anyways, people who do not like shotgunning will tell you that yes, you are taking away a spot from somebody who could have been there and all of this, but in reality, most people shotgunning are not doing it only to very prestigious universities. They do it to a lot of different places, including prestigious universities, and those prestigious universities will have wait lists. So if you decide not to go there, somebody else will get into your spot anyways. Yeah. 3, apply to as many scholarships as you can. It is much easier to get in-school scholarships than it is to get out-of-school scholarships. So in-school scholarships, there may be a better term for this, that's what I call them, are basically scholarships that individual schools will offer you through their school. So let's say NC State gives you $10,000 per year. Yeah, great, awesome. But if you decide to go to UNC Chapel Hill instead, NC State is not going to give that $10,000, obviously, because they gave it to you. Now, let's say that your local church or your school says, hey, you're a really good student, we're going to give you a $1,000 scholarship. That can be applied anywhere. It is a lot easier to get in-school ones than to get a lot of out-of-school ones. So your best option is to apply to a lot of schools and not be super set on one. Even if you want to apply to a lot of art schools, say you want to go for SCAD, RISD, CalArts, then maybe add a couple other high-ranking schools that have good art programs, Davidson College, Duke University. Then maybe add in some more small universities that still have good art programs that will offer you lots of money, say Meredith College, etc. The list just goes on. And you may be set on one university, and if you totally are, I can't change that. You are so much more likely to be able to be financially set up for your future when you go somewhere that gave you a good financial aid offer. And the likelihood of getting a good financial aid offer goes up the more colleges you apply to. Yeah. I don't know what number tip I'm on, but my next one is to really go in on your resume. This is going to be what everybody sees. Seriously. I actually scratch that. Go in on your resume, your supplemental essays, and really, really decide what you want for your portfolio. So resume, you need to write down quite literally almost every activity you've done throughout high school, unless it's very minuscule and just repetitive. And then as far as your supplemental essays go, you need to get that reread, read 13 times, read 23 times. You need to go show it to your teacher, your mom, your friends, and get them all to look at it. On the topic of portfolios, considering you're here for an art video, a couple really important tips. So one of them is the sandwich method, basically saying that you need to spread out your really good or really strong pieces. You have a couple strong pieces at the beginning, a couple in the middle, and a couple at the end. And in between that, you put anything that you're maybe not as proud of. When you're describing those paintings, you need to use almost all the space that you have in that text box. I know most applications are somewhere between like 200 words, somewhere around there. So you should probably be using the majority of that to describe your pieces, because the more effort you put into this, the more that they'll be able to get it. I would also recommend having your portfolio show a lot of different skills, but still maintaining some element that shows that it's your work. For me, really, that's like the colors that I use, and the themes that my art has. I do a lot of art surrounding like social issues, and then I also love really bright girly colors like certain blues, purples, pinks, etc. And most of my works incorporate those colors. So most of the stuff that you saw earlier in my portfolio had that. And even if it was a piece that didn't necessarily correlate with that, like if it was like a nature artwork, I sandwiched it between other art that shared those colors or shared similar themes to just make it flow much more smoothly. Oh yeah, one more really good tip. You need to look into your school's major programs. So whatever you specifically want to major in, whether that be as unspecific as just art or as specific as a very individualized type of printmaking, you need to look at what these schools offer. That was my mistake when I applied to NC State and a few other schools that definitely did not have majors that suited what I wanted to do in my future. And then here I am ending up at Davidson College, which after researching has one of the best art programs for what I want to do, and is a very liberal arts focused interdisciplinary program that's going to allow me to look into a lot of my other interests. That really just goes along with finding a college that fits what you want to do. Now we are coming to the end of this video, and I want to say one last thing as you embark on this crazy, completely random, very confusing and stress-inducing process. I said it at the beginning of this video, and I will say it again. Your college acceptances do not define you. Your college rejections do not define you. Your waitlist do not define you. The scholarships you get, none of it defines you. Yeah, it may be cool to say, oh, I'm going to Harvard, or the art equivalent, oh, I'm going to CalArts. And it may be cool to say, oh, I got a full ride to blah, blah, blah. I got a full ride to blah, blah, blah. And yes, while all of those are amazing, incredible things, if you look on a subreddit called College Results, you will see that there are people who got rejected from Duke that were literally doing some Olympics level stuff. Literally like creating robots, creating multi-million-dollar businesses as high schoolers, and it will make you feel imposter syndrome, let me just tell you that. And here I am, someone who just did, some service projects at my high school, did extracurriculars. It was all very community focused, not to say that I didn't do a lot, but obviously it's not on that monstrosity, that level of craziness. You may go to 3 different scholarship programs and you get none of them. You may go for one and get it immediately. All of it depends on who you are, what's going on, what's happening, who's looking at your application, blah, 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 blah. So, don't define yourself by college. In 4 years, you will have graduated, and this will have been a very small time in your life. So be gentle on yourself. Really do try your hardest, but sometimes your hardest may not be enough to do all of these incredibly selective, highly random things. And that's okay. And that's what I've realized. Thanks for sitting around for some Courtney wisdom. I hope that you feel a lot more prepared in your college journey. I hope that you're ready to start. So, thank you all for listening to me. And I'm gonna go now. Bye!